Welcome to C38 Untapped. Today we are at Black Shirt Brewing. As you can tell, I have some big guests with me today, starting with Sporting Director and Interim GM Padraig Smith.
Hey, great to be here.
Wayne Brant is also joining us, Chief Business Officer. Abby Mood of the Burgundy Wave.
Hi.
And you may know his voice, but not his face, Matt the producer.
I'm so sorry that you have to see my face.
All right, so we're going to actually jump right into some beers because they're just all over the place. So we've got a little bit of a taster here. So we're going to start with the first two on our right. So this first one is a common red. Except for Abby, she has a kombucha. So we'll grill her about that in a little bit. So
I thought you were going to drink that whole thing.
we would be. I'd have
straight
a
down
problem in the beginning.
What are they talking about? You gotta pace yourself here. You gotta pace yourself.
So this is a Kolsch style beer, so it's kind of a cleaner, crisper type beer. Thoughts, guys?
I like it. It's what I'm drinking already. So I'm quite keen on this one. Yeah, I like it a lot.
You too? All right. So that was a little bit of a mini sip. So we'll move it on then to the Colorado Red Ale. This is their flagship beer. So could you guys see them selling a lot of this thing?
I like that one a lot so far. That's my favorite. This one's a little too crisp, this one here. There's such a thing. It's too crisp. It tastes like it might be healthy, and I don't want any of that.
Like there's some apple or something in there?
Yes, yeah.
All right.
Like there's not enough calories.
Speaking of crisp and fruit, maybe, I don't know, what do you got there?
This is a cranberry lavender kombucha. And so usually when you get kombucha in the bottle, it has all the fermented stuff at the bottom. So it's nice that this is like super clean and filtered. It's a very smooth taste. I'm a fan.
To business a little bit. We're just a few days into December, and the off season has kind of been busy with the announcement of Anthony Hudson becoming the 8th coach in Rapids history. Also, there was the signing of Johan Brumberg.
You would
Very well done. That's impressive.
Close.
Impressive.
He says Ewan.
Yeah, a little bit. With that being said, could you kind of maybe give us a little bit of insight as to how kind of those kind of came together?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to go back to the genesis of this, it really starts with when we put down our op-ed, or when we wrote the op-ed in the Denver Post and really outlined who we wanted to be as a club, what we wanted to be, and really spoke about, the pathway forward, and I think with that was the first time, certainly the first time in my knowledge that the club's come out and been really transparent about that and said, look, this is what we're going to do. And that brings with it positives and brings with it negatives. You're putting your head above the parapet and you need to then back that up. And I think that was a big thing for us when we went out then looking for a new head coach. We'd obviously spent quite some time preparing for that. And we really had a detailed plan in terms of how we wanted to go about bringing in the right coach. And I think that was the key thing for us. It's very easy to go out and bring in a name, somebody that people know, but that doesn't necessarily tie in with what we're trying to do as a club. So we wanted to make it a global search. We were committed to that. We were going to take our time. We were going to make sure that we got the right person. Spoke to a lot of really good guys, but there was that little bit extra about Anthony, and I think from the very beginning, he was clearly able to articulate a vision and a philosophy that was very much in line with ours. But not only could he articulate the vision, he was able to demonstrate how he was going to achieve that and the pathway toward that. In Johan, it's quite simple. If anybody that's watched him play, and I'm lucky I've seen him play live, I've seen obviously quite a lot of tape games, I think he's going to surprise quite a few people. And obviously then that tied in quite nicely that as soon as Anthony, had finished up in New Zealand, he was able to watch him and very quickly say, yeah, this is a guy that fits my system down to a T. So it was a good start, but that's all it is. It's just a start. There's a lot more to come.
I was just afraid it would be like, hey, I'm calling from the Colorado Rapids. Hello. No, it's like,
No.
You don't have to be apologetic. You don't have to be in any way false. They still want to come here, despite the unfortunate season.
I'd say the only thing I'd add to Padraig's answer to answer that is I think it also starts with the league, right? Like, especially when you're talking to people who are overseas, they want to come be a part of Major League Soccer. So right there's an immediate interest of this league is on the up and up. People want to come and be a part of it. And then when you have a vision and a strategy that's clearly outlined, like we think we've done over the past 6 to 7 months, that certainly adds to it. But then there's also the culture and the people, and to mix in with the Colorado. So it's like a 4-pronged approach to this. And I think when you have, the culture is something I'm very proud of, and whether it's, when you have Anthony, it wasn't just myself, Padraig, and Mitch that were part of it, there's a lot of other people that he's met that he's been incredibly impressed with since he started, to be the first to say. And I think, those department heads and the various people we've got in the building, they help too. And I think it does make it, may always seem like it on your side, but there's certainly not an apologetic feel to it. We're very aggressive, we're very clear, and I think we clearly articulate our vision and our strategy in addition to all these other assets that I think are playing to our favor. And there's also ownership. Mr. Kroenke, and Jim and Matt Hutchings, they're incredibly supportive of us. And I think, again, not something that you guys may always agree with or see, but certainly behind the scenes, it's there. And I think it's clear to some of the, whether it's Anthony, Matt and Jim both were part of the hiring process. They both spoke to Anthony in advance of him coming on board.
We've heard a lot in the Rapids Way op-ed that you guys wrote, and even throughout the search, that it's important to find someone who can walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And a few minutes ago, you mentioned that there were some things that really put Anthony Hudson kind of above all the other applicants. So what are some of those things that you guys saw in him that kind of let you say, this is our guy?
For me, there were a couple of things really. The attention to detail when we met him, I think I was really surprised about his knowledge of the league and his knowledge of our players. He'd already broken down every goal we conceded last year, how we conceded the goal, who was at fault, and then crucially, what he would do on the training field to correct those mistakes. So he had a really, really clear pathway on that. But ultimately for me, and look, we've talked about this a lot, about trying to become a more attacking team. The methodology that he has in place, the training sessions that are geared towards implementing his tactics on the field are incredibly strong. So he was able to take us through all these training sessions, and you could quite clearly see in each session what it was geared to impart on the players, what information that it was geared to impart on the players. And that to me was really, really, really good stuff. He had training sessions that were planned for every single nuance of what he wants to do. All the various patterns that he wants his players to employ on the field were all clearly demonstrated in those training sessions. And then I think we finally pushed it over the line when we spoke to a few players in and around the New Zealand camp. The way they talked about him was exceptional. And I mean, a Premier League player turning around saying he's never felt as prepared for games as he does under Hudson, that's a pretty big tick mark to go beside you. And then this same person came back and said, look, he's a club coach. He needs to be in a club environment. He's getting so jittery because he doesn't have the guys around all the time. He just wants to be with them all the time. So he's constantly working on that, constantly making them better players, giving them a better and more in-depth understanding of what he wants to do on the field. So they were two big things for me.
So we're going to do round 2 of beers. As you can tell, we're standing because this is how we do it. We're going to get for cereal now.
I'm super cereal.
So this is the String Bender.
The string bender.
It's a Saison, the 7.5. Apparently,
Last string bender?
Saison. Yeah. Let the kombucha drinker correct me.
Kombucha.
See? Now, this is the 4-track, so this is a little closer to number 2 because there's some red in it. It's a red porter, so it's going to be a little darker. 6.0, there's some chocolate, caramel. Apparently, this is our dessert beer.
Coffee-ish.
Yeah, I would say coffee-ish compared to that.
I think by the time you get to porter, you might as well just go to stout and just get McGuinness at that stage. There we go.
Matt has done it the right way.
Start and end in the same square.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of that, you have some questions for Wayne, do you
Of
not?
course, because we brought him all the way out here.
Yeah.
Now, we all remember 2016 and selling out so many games. It's been a bit of attrition. As the business manager, how do we get those fans back? And I'm talking about from day one, or can we expect them back from day one?
Well, I think it's a great question. We spend a lot of time thinking about ourselves. I think the first thing is obviously winning, and I do think the vision that Padraig's outlined, we're on the right track there. I think the wins will come. We'll be okay. But I do think we've lost touch with our fan base a little bit, if we're being honest, and I think we've spent a lot of time kind of behind the scenes the past few months. We meet with C38's board of directors pretty regularly now. We've developed this fan council, I guess is an appropriate term for them, about 12 to 15 season ticket holders that we meet with. We'll be actually meeting with again next week.
And this is outside of C38.
Yeah,
too.
this is
I was
outside.
going to say, did they go through the same rigorous audition as Coach Hudson? 'Cause I have some
Two separate
concerns
groups.
about some C38 guys.
And, you know, we hope there's proper representation across all the different elements of our fan base there. That for right now, it's about, you know, collecting data and learning a little bit more about our customer needs and what we're trying to accomplish. And I think we'll go back to the drawing board, and whether we're talking about fan experience or communication or whatever it may be. I think you'll see the club roll out some new initiatives the first part of next year.
Okay, so do you guys have any comment about when your interim tags might come off? Because it's pretty clear that you're leading the
If you want to break any news
team.
right now, that's cool.
This would
Look, at the end of the day, that's out of our control. Like for Wayne and I, like the key focus for us at the moment is doing our jobs. We're incredibly proud of the fact that, you know, we've been given this opportunity and put in this position to kind of lead the club forward. Like the key focus for us at the moment is doing our jobs. We're incredibly proud of the fact that, you know, we've been given this opportunity and put in this position to kind of lead the club forward. There is so much going on right now, we're not even concerned about that. We're just focused on what we have to do and making sure that we're ready to go for next season.
So you've kind of, I'll take over on this one, because in a way it kind of goes with, I guess, our show, but you've definitely shown a lot of support with our podcast, Untapped, bringing back the tailgate interviews. Is there anything that you can kind of maybe give us a heads up on, or something to look forward to coming into the next year with the cooperation on from the front office with us as well?
I was going to say he stole my question, but he's got a completely different direction.
Yeah, I did a little bit, but it just...
Want me to take this one?
Yeah, for it.
So I think this goes back to for there's two things here, right? One, it goes back to the Rapids way and our attempt to be more transparent. We are sincere in that attempt. We have to be cautious of it to a certain extent, not to be irresponsible and give away things that could potentially hurt us in the long road. But for the most part, when there's a story to tell or there's things that we can share, we want to do that. Secondly, the supporters are the lifeblood of the group and the team. And, you know, Padraig can talk a little bit about what it means to the first team, but to a certain extent, when it comes to C38 specifically, our futures are tied to each other. We got to figure this out. We got to figure out how to help each other grow, whether that's through transparency and communications, or what I talked about earlier a little bit with the fan experience. But we have a vision and a strategy to get there, and we're not going to be shy about talking about it and setting goals and being accountable and having you guys hold us accountable. So whether it's Abby and the Burgundy Wave, which we may not love everything you say, but that's okay. We want you to challenge
That's
us and
mostly
hold us
Mark
accountable. Whether it's the Denver Post, whoever it may be, I think you know, we're going to put ourselves out there, and we hope it's for the better of the club, and for us to continue to grow and get better.
I think I'll add to that as well, because from the players' side, like it's hugely important. You know, the players want to have a connected fan base. They want to walk out. Wayne spoke about the LA game last year. They want to walk out to that every week.
Yeah.
They want to feel that, and I think one of the ways that we can get engaged is obviously by, you know, helping everybody understand what we're trying to do here. But it matters. It matters for the players. They talk about it.
It does. There was one morning early in the season when Alan Gordon was still getting familiar, and I was in the locker room. I was working out, and it was like 8 hours before the game was about to start, and he comes in. He was getting treatment on something, and he pops in and he asked, he goes, what do you think the crowd's gonna look like tonight? You know, and I was like, yeah, it'll be pretty decent, you know, 15, 16,000. We were talking numbers, and this was like a April-March game. And, you know, we ended up having this 25-minute conversation about the crowd and what it means to those guys. And they generally, I mean, when you're popping around the office, it's almost the first thing they ask us. It puts our ticket sales guys under enormous amount of pressure when you've got our guys asking them, you guys going to win this weekend? You going to score some goals? And then you got these guys asking, what's the crowd going to look like? You know, so there's nice checks and balances in the office, even with the players. You know, it's an open dialogue. We're not shy about talking about it.
Thank you guys for coming out and continuing to build the relationship between us and the club. Cheers. Cheers.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate
Cheers, yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And thank you to Black Shirt Brewing. And thank you to John for editing the shit out of this.